Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast series for financial advisors. Today's episode is A Prescription for Independence, a Merrill Breakaway's financial physician approach to client care and growth. It's a conversation with Alex Markowitz, founding and managing partner of Alteri Wealth. I'm Louis Diamond, and this is the Diamond Podcast for financial advisors. Alex, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I've been excited to speak with you. Been tracking your progress after seeing the big headlines when your team transitioned, and just knowing you're also a big sports fan. We got lots to catch up on today, in addition to business items.
Sounds good.
So let's start off with we'll call it your origin story. You went to UC San Diego. You went to med school for a period of time, and then 13 years or so at Merrill before you decided to leave. Can you just talk about your career arc and how you found your way into wealth management from the world of medicine?
Yeah, sure. It is a very long answer, but not really, so I will condense it. My whole life, I thought I wanted to be a physician, right? I joke. My last name is Markowitz, so I was supposed to be a doctor. My first real word was phalange. So I don't know. I think my mom used to just read Grey's Anatomy while I was in my crib, right? So you go through the progressions, went to college, did everything I needed to do, went to medical school. 6 months in, I saw the future of healthcare. And you don't go into medicine for the financial rewards. You go into medicine for your true empathy and to help and to do no harm. Unfortunately, when you sit and do the math, right? I was looking at borrowing $500,000 at 8%. You don't go into medicine for the money, but the math has to math.
Yep.
And I used to always tell myself that I was going to live my 20s and 30s in my 40s and 50s. So I was going to sacrifice for later. And then when I really sat and did the math, it was more like sacrificing for my 50s and 60s. And I want to be a father. So the quality of life decision is what really made me decide to come home. So called my parents, told them I was coming home, and my mom, as you can imagine, went berserk, right? The quintessential Jewish mother, wasn't having it. My dad gets on the phone and said, "Do you know what you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I do." And Louis, I tell this to everybody, this is the God's honest truth. In that moment, on that phone call, my dad said, "Kid, as long as you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, but you got to make your mother and I one promise." And I said, "Yeah, what?" He said, "Promise me you're not going to be a stockbroker." And I just started cracking up. And he said, "What's so funny?" And I said, "I've got a job interview at Merrill the week after I come home." So how did I get there? I was that kid that just grew up watching CNBC. It was on in the background in my house, always. Again, Markowitz, right? So CNBC and the ticker tape was always there. And my dad would be getting ready in the morning, and I was just captivated by the reds and greens. And from my bar mitzvah, I got $5,200. My parents put it into a UTMA. I don't even know how. I mean, it was the 90s, so maybe it was different. But I had a stockbroker at UBS that would take buy and sell orders from a 13 and 14-year-old. So I don't know how that worked with hindsight. But I turned my UTMA into a really large dollar amount. And that's what helped, send me to grad school and take care of my life. And it was one of those things where my whole value proposition to this day is I'm a financial physician now, right? So everything that I was going to do in a previous life, you meet with the patient, you take their financial medical history, you diagnose the problem, you find the appropriate medication with the investments, and you manage and monitor their care. So everything that I was going to do in a previous life, I get to do it here. So it's everything that was truly my skill set. I've been able to harness it and use it for what I'm truly passionate about.
It's such a cool story. And I mean, you are using your desire to have empathy and make an impact just without 500,000 of crushing medical debt. So
that's the other
seems like
thing.
a good trade.
It was a huge trade-off, right? But it was also, it's the fact that, the more and more I've done this now, 14 years in the seat, I've found that most people care more about their financial health than they do their physical health, which is a really interesting paradigm shift in my brain. It's a dilemma.
You're also lucky that you had two like very clear career passions that both would have been very beneficial to society for financial reasons, et cetera. But I mean, at least you shot your shot, right? You kind of went down the medicine path. Better to understand that wasn't the right fit rather than signing up for many years of schooling and just regretting the decisions you made. And I'm always a believer that that things happen for a reason, and each decision you make leads you down the path that you're supposed to. And for you, clearly, going against your dad's advice and becoming a stockbroker at the time was the right move based upon everything you've accomplished and all the passion you have for this business.
Both my parents are extremely proud, and now I've got the ultimate cheerleader in my mom, so it all worked out.
Amazing. What's a big belief that you had about this business that you've reversed either recently or overall? Maybe a preconceived notion or something you really believed in the beginning of your career that's shifted.
Hmm. That's a great question. And I hate to sound jaded, but when I started in this business, I had that boyish naivete. I was 25 and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So I think the one thing that I have reversed is that everyone has pure intentions,
Hmm.
right? So I got into this with the idea of changing it. I have a little anecdote that I always say that I love what I do, but I hate the industry that I work in, which is a fallacy, but it's not because I truly love the work, but the stigma that comes along with being in our industry at times, it's hard to shake. And that's where I think the value has been that my business partner and I have been able to provide is, we are not the industry or what you think the industry is. And I think
Hmm.
that would probably be one of, if not my biggest belief that I've reversed is that, yeah, but it's like you get that with anything. And at 25, I didn't realize that yet.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, with any large industry, there's bad actors, there's good actors, and most people probably fall somewhere in the middle.
Right.
You can't control the negativity. All you can do is control what's in front of you and your practice, the way you serve clients, et cetera. So I think that
That's
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah,
We'll fast forward the tape a little bit just to provide some context for the rest of the interview.
sure.
Can you share a bit about Alteri, which is your RIA firm, what it looks like today in terms of the size of the business, the makeup of your team, and anything else you want to share that just gives some context for our listeners?
Sure. We're almost a 10, well, almost. We're a 9-person, 10-person team, 9-person team. We've got 3 advisors. It's myself, my business partner, and Matt Mullally, who is a 41-year Merrill Lynch vet who came with
Wow.
us that we'll also talk about in a little bit. We've got 3 support staff. We have a COO, and we've got a director of IT because our firm is um, cybersecurity first. So that was the one thing that I think we are a little bit different. We've actually got in-house tech support. Size of the business varies. We've got a couple of large institutional clients, so anywhere from 650 to 900 million at any given month, depending on what's coming in, what's going out. But the core of our business is about 650 million plus when the money comes in and comes out from our larger corporate clients. It gives us that balance for the cash management.
Makes sense. Yes, and it's a great business. I like too that, and maybe I'll ask you a question a little bit about the decision to hire a COO. I really like the idea of the in-house tech person, just given that's a competitive edge or at a minimum, oftentimes a fear factor or certainly a major risk for a lot of independent firms. And also to talk about being able to convince a 40 plus year Merrill vet to go on this entrepreneurial journey with you. So we'll get to it. I
No
don't want to cut
problem.
ahead too much.
All right.
So let's go back to the Merrill years.
Okay.
So walk us through your time at Merrill, like your pivotal roles, maybe some key mentors, and maybe the
Sure.
moment you knew that you were going to be good at this and that you had something and you wanted to lead your own team.
Okay. Great question. So when I first started, again, I only drew on the experience that I had in my past life. So I've always told myself every doctor is only as good as their nurse. Your patient, if you have a great nurse, doesn't matter what your bedside manner is, the nurse will save the day. So I brought that same mentality to Merrill Lynch. Rather than starting in the training program right off the bat, I was an assistant for 2 years.
Hmm.
And I wanted to learn the business and I worked for a really high powered team. So I got to see how the bigger teams do it day one. That for me was the greatest, and I would recommend it to anybody starting in the business if you want to do this on the sales side, right? For me, when I was in the Merrill training program, it was easy. I knew how to send wires, I knew how to journal money, I knew how to open up accounts. Where all of my peers were getting bogged down, I was just coasting through, because get in front of people, do what I needed to do, open it up, follow through, rinse and repeat. So working as a full-time assistant before going into the PMD training program was the greatest training for me to get into that role. Started in the training program. That was arduous in and of itself. 492 people, I think, were in my hiring class, and I think 5 of us made it through the 3-year training program.
Wow.
So, again, I don't need to tell you the stories. It's just my Merrill Lynch and the training program. It was an incredible training program. So started out as an assistant, made my way up to advisor. As far as mentors, I've got a couple. So Marty Rubin is a very, very close family friend of mine who's a serial entrepreneur, and he wrote a book called Selling Can Be Fun. And in there's a sentence that just said, never overlook an opportunity to act silly and have fun. And that was something that resonated with me, because no matter, senior vice president, managing director, whatever it is, whatever your title may be, you've got to be able to have fun. So his words of encouragement definitely helped me get through a lot. And then Martin Martirana was an admin manager at Merrill Lynch. He was a mentor of mine. He's the reason I'm in this industry, because he helped me get through a lot of hiccups as a trainee, right? And that's the other thing. You got to have people on your side to help you. You can't navigate it on your own. And he was the guy who did a lot of heavy lifting and helped me navigate the labyrinth that is corporate America. And then last but not least, my business partner, Michelle Gruber, was a mentor of mine, was my big sister, was my best friend. And to be able to finally build a business with her was a dream come true.
Amazing. It's so much. I really like it's unique actually to hear that you decided you wanted to start off in an assistant capacity and looked at that as a leg up or an advantage before going into the training program. I think a lot of advisors would look at starting off as an assistant as being beneath them, or I want to be in a sales role. I completely agree. You learn the business from a completely different vantage point. You got to know the basics before you can do everything else. And it's probably a great way too to see firsthand what makes really successful advisors tick and learn the ins and outs of a successful practice. So I think that is a good teaching or learning for anyone looking to start off is kind of start at the bottom of the food chain, work your way up and learn some stuff before you're going out there and pitching your network and looking to make the big bucks.
Well,
I also just wrote down that book, Selling Can Be Fun.
it's a fun one. It's a short little, it's itty bitty small, it's a fun read. But I definitely, for those, it's always Dale Carnegie, and it's always, it's the books that are familiar. But this one was just one that really spoke to me, because how Marty grew his business was very similar to how I grew mine.
Very cool. Yeah, I know with our firm, my mom Mindy, the book that kind of set us on our course and it's required reading from any of our new team members is called Go Givers Sell More. So I'm sure there's similarities and differences, but it's kind of just putting words to an approach that I think is really, really helpful and kind of takes some of the stigma or the fear out of selling, which is pretty scary in its own right.
Yep. That's definitely very true. I think also the moment you asked, one of the questions was the moment that I knew I could lead my own team, right? Something to that effect. 2016 was the moment, that I knew I had to do something. I never had aspirations of being Michael Jordan. I had aspirations of being Jerry Reinsdorf. So I was always coming from a different approach, right? I didn't need to be the guy that got all the trophies. I wanted to be the guy that got the guy. So I always had the vision of, well, that's not true. So it was actually you and Michael Kitces that really helped me. It was your guys, it was your mom and you and Michael Kitces back in 2016, I started looking elsewhere because I was a junior on a team. I don't need to tell you how that story goes. I had two failed partnerships at Merrill Lynch. One, nepotism. I totally understand it. And I hope to God I have a child that wants to take over what we've built one day. But the other one was just one of those partnerships where, it is what it is. But that's when I knew that I needed autonomy. I didn't know the independent world. I just knew I was great at this, but not in the confines of the Wirehouse anymore. And ironically enough, I used to tell myself that, do you want to be an all-star on the Yankees or a Hall of Famer on the Athletics? And I don't know. I think I'd much rather be Ricky Henderson than Jorge Posada. So I started looking around and just started listening. And then I learned about the independent world. And when I removed the Wirehouse chip from my shoulder, it was a different story that I was listening to. It was no longer the competition and these guys don't know what they're doing because they're independent. It was, oh, wow, wait a second. You can do everything that you need to do for your clients and to be a true fiduciary and what that really means, because words are important, but the actions are even more important. And there were just things that we couldn't do at our previous firm that we can now do. So I think for me, the idea started in 2016, but it had to percolate and it had to grow because I was just a one-man shop. And again, I didn't want to do this on my own. I wanted to do it with a team. So the idea was there, and then it just started to grow.
Well, first, I'll sidestep your Yankee comment. I would always pick to be on the Yankees over anything. Personal bias,
It's all good.
but I do like that analogy. So, would you say that your kind of the first spark to consider something outside of Merrill, was it because of the experiences with these partnerships, or were there
Yeah.
other things that were kind of bubbling to the surface that motivated you to spend some energy on getting educated?
Well, it was the partnership that was the catalyst, because it really was. I mean, it was 6 years of blood, sweat, and tears. And then, it was all taken away in a moment because you're low man on the totem pole, big producer, blah, 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 blah. So for me, it was one of those things that was like, okay, this can't be. I can't be in a profession where my future is dictated and controlled. So I needed to fix that. As I started to now focus on the business, because, when you're young, your goal, at least at the Wirehouse, is just gather assets, gather assets, gather assets, right? And then once you finally gather the assets and you have hindsight, you can start to look at the business. Okay. One of the things that I always joke about is I was hired by Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith. I resigned to Merrill, a Bank of America company. And that's a very, very fundamental difference, right? Because the truth is, it was a very different company by the time I left. So the spark was the business partnership. And then it was the next 8 years of, I just felt like Sisyphus. No matter what I did, no matter how high I climbed, that rock would always come back down. And that just, for our business, that's not scalable, repeatable, and is extremely toxic.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like every advisor, regardless of what firm they're leaving or considering leaving, has their own experiences in which they experience the firm. I mean, of course, there's common themes we hear about control or lack of customization on technology or fill in the blanks. But it's so interesting to see that the lack of control that you felt it was personified in a different way than it normally is. It was having something you built, in essence, be taken away from you and not wanting to repeat that, and really recognizing that if I really want to control my own destiny and make my mark, I need complete and unfettered control over my future.
That's what it was about. And I had the tenacity to do it, right? Because I had to rebuild my business twice, right?
Wow.
Building a business once is hard enough. To have to rebuild it 3 times, having it, the two failed partnerships. Again, I wouldn't change it for anything because it made me resilient. It made me learn how to power through. My grandfather was a Marine and he always said, forge ahead. So that's what really just allowed me to just put my head down and just focus on the task at hand, which has always been the client. So
Well
everything
said.
else was just noise.
Well said. So were you and Michelle partners at Merrill, or did you forge this new
No.
partnership when you launched the firm?
So this was all forged in around 2020. Michelle was on, okay, so here's the dynamic. Matt was a sole practitioner, Michelle was on a really large team, and I was a sole practitioner. Now, Michelle and I were very, very close, and during COVID, she was on another team, and that was, I always told myself I would never infringe. If somebody's on a team, I know what that means, and it's not my place to get involved. 2020 rolls around, we're all trapped in our homes, and Michelle, talked to her business partner. She can count it on one hand during the entire pandemic, right? So we're all working from home, and they barely talked. Michelle and I were talking almost every day. And through our conversations, we started to talk, and then I started to hear about her dynamics, and it was okay. Well, sign this piece of paper because I have an idea that I want to run by you, but I need you to contractually obligate yourself. So sign this NDA before I tell you what I'm thinking about. Once that transpired, it was okay. Here's what I've been thinking about for the last 4 years. What are your thoughts? And one thing led to another. And it was just organic and truly symbiotic. We feed so well off of one another. And I just looked at her and said, she's a little bit older than I am. And I just looked at her and said, I want to be your retirement plan. So let's do this. And thus the template was born and the conversation started. And before we knew it, it was time to go.
So between 2016 and 2020 or so, that's a decent gap of time.
Sure.
Was it the buy-in of someone like Michelle that kind of pushed you over the edge to pursue this dream, or what was it in between that gap that kept you in your seat before you were ready to really put this plan into motion?
Professionally, I had a couple of really big wins that kept me in the seat, right? At the end of the day, again, it's always client first. So I had some really ultra high net worth clients that came to me around 2018 where I needed Merrill. I won't, that's why you're there. So it was about the services and the products and the expertise. I needed to be able to leverage that. So I didn't want to do anything to harm my clients in the interim while they were going through the events that they were going through. I think the conversation really materialized with Michelle because I was able to now see a vision, right? So my business was built. It was pretty much secured, but I needed to make sure that a couple of things got taken care of before I could start thinking about me and my future.
Yeah, well, I think that shows, a little bias in this comment, but I think it shows the value of education. Like getting educated isn't an immediate signal that you're going to act upon what you learn or that you're unhappy or that you have to leave. But if you kind of take things in on your own time, it kind of lets the vision develop more organically. And then you really, any advisor is in the catbird seat to dictate, is there enough that I'm kind of experiencing to justify the pain and hassle of this change? And am I compelled enough by this vision or another firm or other resources that are available? So I think that's a really cool way that your thought process developed. And honestly, you did what probably most advisors do: is it's easier to stay. I like your analogy of Sisyphus. Like it's much easier, I always say, to push a rock down a hill than up. So if you have some big wins, you got a big pipeline, you're growing, it makes it a lot harder to justify leaving. But it sounded like pandemic, kind of having Michelle's buy-in and just the crystallization of her vision were kind of the raw ingredients to make it happen.
100%. And again, this is something that I would tell any person listening to your podcast. You have to make the decision, make it with a clear head. Don't make it out of spite. Don't make it out of you're upset that the grid has changed or that the compensation packages are different now. That's not why you should be leaving. You should be leaving because you have a clear path to what you're trying to build. And for me, again, I'm super type A, and the blueprint was there, but the foundation truly needed to be built. And once I saw a future with Michelle, because again, right, I didn't want to just jump into a partnership. I needed to be very methodical about this because the partnerships with the Wirehouse are loosey goosey. The
Yeah.
partnerships in this world, this is it, right? This is my second
Yeah.
wife. And ironically enough, my wife is actually, her name is Michelle. So I have my two Michelles in life. But this was a true marriage, and I wanted to make sure that the partnership was solidified with somebody who I really knew that if God forbid something happened to me, the people who have trusted me with their financial lives would be well taken care of.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
we talked about Michelle. What about Matt, who you said was a 41-year Merrill vet?
Yep.
When did he come into the fold? And I know we're not speaking to him directly,
No, but
but what,
he's
what was
definitely a
his
part of the
what
story
was
because how do you
what
fix
was
that?
his thought process to? I mean, that's a lot of time at a firm. That's just a lot of. I would say he was quite institutionalized at that point. Like, how did you convince him to come, and what was it that he saw that
So you're
motivated him
gonna
to follow
take the
you?
words right out of my mouth. I joked because we engaged Matt for, I don't know, it was probably about a year before we left, because we knew he was going to really think about it. But from day one, I called him Brooks, the old guy from Shawshank Redemption, right? Because, and again, he was also the director. He was the resident director of the
Hmm.
office in which we left years ago. And one thing that he always said was, when Merrill Lynch takes their name off the building is when he's going to leave this firm. So 2021 rolls around and Merrill Lynch took the Merrill Lynch name off and put Bank of America up. So
Hmm.
Michelle approached Matt and was like, so the name came down. Um, what do you think? It was very, very difficult for Matt. But the reason why I think he was able to come with us was his daughter was Michelle's lead CA, was Michelle's lead assistant on her team. So she was coming with us. She saw a future with us. She saw
Yeah.
her natural progression and trajectory. Just, Dad, I'm going with them, and you should come. And I think what it really was Michelle and I just sat and showed Matt the value of what this world looks like, right? CTP, you sell your business to somebody else who you may or may not know at the firm. These clients you've had for 30, 40 years. You're just going to leave them to
Yeah.
somebody else. And in our market, there really wasn't anybody who he saw to have a natural progression to take over his family. He's always wanted his daughter to work with his clients in some capacity. So great. And that's the whole purpose of the family office that we built here, because hopefully we'll get Brienne trained up and ready to go. And there will be a book of business waiting for her when her dad decides to retire. And the economics, if we're going to speak truly and candidly, and this world is very, very different, right? One thing that I think a lot of senior advisors at the wirehouses don't understand is, I mean, they understand it for their clients, but when you sell your business at the wirehouse, it's ordinary income.
Yeah.
You sell your business to the firms out in this world, it's long-term capital gains. So that's a huge delta for somebody that's 70 years old and wanting to retire. And he trusted my business partner. He trusted me. He trusts his daughter. And it was literally, I mean, the night before we resigned, the night before, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm going to stay here. And I said, Matt, you are a God-fearing man. You've told me this since day one. You just, at this point, you need to just jump and the rest will take care of itself. And ironically enough, he was very scared because, again, 41 years of drinking the Kool-Aid. I think he had a 94, 90, 94, 95% pull through,
Wow.
right? And that's
That's great.
somebody who genuinely thought nobody was coming.
Yep. Yep. Hey, that's common. I said to someone the other day that if every advisor knew with absolute certainty that they would bring 90, 92, 94, 95% of their business, probably pretty much everyone would consider leaving. It's the kind of the fear of the long tail that you're going to be the example. You're going to be the one that people talk about who didn't bring anything over, that keeps people where they are. Like, everyone's fairly risk averse at the end of the day. But it's amazing to hear that progression, just how you kind of got him engaged, what he saw, and even just the battle he felt internally to decide if this was right. Um, what what were some of your biggest concerns before you launched the business? Was it client portability? Was it the platforms wouldn't be good enough? Was it the amount of work, or anything else? I fill in the blanks.
I think the biggest concern was really the forging of three different teams into one big team, with the idea of, we've got very different personalities, and we're all at different tail ends of the spectrum, right? Matt's been doing this since before I was born. So you've got that personality. Then you've got Michelle, who's been in the business for 20 years. And then you've got me, who is a little bit more boisterous, if you will, vibrant. I bring a different personality as well. So I think my biggest concern was the meshing of all of that.
Yeah.
Can we make this all work? And it's been incredible. The last 16 months has been truly a breath of fresh air.
Amazing. I know it was a decent period of time ago, not that long. Do you remember what the elements of your due diligence process looked like? Like, even if you're not comfortable naming firms, just like
No,
the different types of things you looked at, and how you ultimately decided on the business model that you launched with.
So, yes, the due diligence. We had a couple of, as I told you, we got a couple of really big corporate institutional clients, right? So we do some cash management for some really large companies. It was always going to be between Fidelity and Schwab. That was it. We needed brand recognition. Our clients were institutionalized from Merrill Lynch. We've got 40-year vet with his clients, Michelle's clients. Before she was at Merrill, she was at UBS, right? So, and all of my clients have been conditioned from Merrill Lynch. So we knew that we needed familiarity, right? So there's nothing to say about the other firms out there, but it was between Schwab and Fidelity. And we ultimately went with Schwab after doing all our due diligence, because it was the first time in my career, and this is not a paid advertisement for Schwab, but they are incredible. I mean, it was the first time in my life that I felt really a part of a team. I mean, when Michelle and I were transitioning, we went to our first impact. Our badges said Merrill Lynch because we were still being courted. We had dinner with Walt Bettinger and Bernie Clark. I mean, we met the entire C-suite at Charles Schwab. I'm not meeting Brian Moynihan for dinner, right? Ironically enough, tonight I'm going to dinner with John Thiel. So in another life, that would have never happened. And tonight, John's in town, so we're having a little reunion. And it's like, it's a different space now. So it ultimately came down to Schwab and our team, like, not to plug, but anybody that's listening, if you're in the Southwest market, Barry Nicholson over at Schwab, if you've got a large team, what they did was really handhold us all the way through, and just true partnerships across the board. It was just, I mean, the ACAP process, our whole startup, everything that we did to launch, it was just so seamless. And I think that's a lot of people's really big concerns. What's that going to look like? Oh my God, we've got a lot of moving parts. This portfolio does this and that, and the muni bond income from this account pays their monthly mortgage. So what I can tell you is Schwab brought their A game. Our entire transition team was incredible. It was funny. One of my good friends left and went to UBS a couple months before we did. And 3 weeks after our launch, I had my buddies over to the office, and we were on our patio drinking some bourbon, just celebrating. And my buddy from UBS was like, "Where's your transition team? Like, why? You guys left 3 weeks ago. I transitioned 7 months ago, and like, I'm still dealing with stuff." And I was like, they left a week ago. They were here for 2 weeks.
Wow,
and we've already
that's
transitioned
amazing.
65, 70% of our book in the first 3 weeks. So the due diligence really, we were very, very smart with how we went about it and methodical about how we went with it. But I think it was just Schwab's family office also, right? So we're in a unique model where we're going to start dual custodying with Schwab family office as well, for some of our ultra high net worth families, and just the resources that they bring and the access that they bring. It's something I've never had in my career.
I mean, that's absolutely amazing. Not everyone feels that way, especially thinking about transitions. There's always things that go wrong. There's always big surprises. I'm sure you had surprises too, but to hear that type of endorsement and that you found such an amazing partner is everything. Did you, for you, was say independence or bust? Did you consider any W-2 options? Did you consider affiliating or plugging into another RIA, or was it just, we know what we want to do, we're going to do this, or we're not going to do it? And it was really just down to which custodian we were going to pick.
It was autonomy. Autonomy was the number. You looked on our list. It was, for us, it's altruism. From the client perspective, our core ideology starts with altruism. On the business side, our core ideology started with autonomy and altruism, right? So you say in the beginning of this, you said that you like the fact that we brought a COO. That was the one thing that Michelle and I, day one at our first cocktail, Alex, I'm not a business owner. Michelle, I'm not a business owner. I don't want to run this thing. I don't either. I want to stick to what I'm good at. We will pay somebody a ridiculous amount of money and we'll grow into it so that they can take care of everything. For me to sit and try to figure out the ins and outs of Black Diamond, no way, man. It was great. And when we reached out to our peers, it was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This is really similar. And this is pretty cool that you could do this. But for all the heavy lifting, Michelle and I kept it all in house because, again, autonomy was everything. And that's the one thing that people have always asked. How did you build it? How did you build it?
Yep.
I listened to Lewis. I listened to Michael Kitsis. I listened to your mom. I listened to other advisors' stories. And again, like I said earlier, Michael Henley was very, very influential in my succession because he was somebody who I looked up to. Like I laughed at it when I heard it, and I'll never forget it. I think he had his wedding cake was the Merrill Lynch bull, and it was like, oh my God, so was mine. Like, who is this guy? We're kindred spirits. And the way his business grew, I was, I always looked to who was doing it and who was successful and how can I just recreate what they're doing. So listening to his podcast, when you guys talked in, I think 2019 or 18, that was also, okay, Mike and his team did it. So can we.
I love that. Very cool. I didn't tell you to say that either, but
No, you didn't.
can we spend some more time on the decision to hire a COO? I think it's a very important learning because a COO is an expensive role. It's usually not someone that's already native to the team, so it's a fixed cost that tends to be pretty significant. Did you hire your COO before you launched or after? Like, how did that all work?
So again, everybody that we have is former Merrill Lynch, Bank of America employees. Veronica Hoy, our COO, was somebody that I worked with when I was in the Merrill Lynch training program. I was one of those successful advisors that they put in the bank branches, where I was the first iteration of it. And I mean, it was incredible for me. I think in 2 years, I pulled $100 million out of my bank.
Wow.
In 2 years, it was a great thing. Veronica was one of the Merrill Edge advisors that worked in the bank branch with me. So we worked hand in hand, but she also had, corporate experience before this, and she just didn't want to be an advisor anymore. And I saw her skill sets, and it was one of those things that we worked together for years, and she was a true operator, right? She was great with people, but she's the Excel spreadsheet queen, and that's really what her skill set was. So that's the age-old dilemma that everybody's, well, we're going to hire this person. They're non-revenue generating. So why are we going to pay them all of this money or give them equity and they're not generating revenue? No, but they're driving the ship. She's the captain of our business. So it's great that Michelle and I get to go out and do what we're great at, but she's maintaining the revenue. And anybody that doesn't look at a COO as the revenue maintainer, it's my job to fuel. It's Michelle's job to fuel, but it's her job to steer and maintain. And yeah, a lot of people can do without it. Okay, but then you run the risk of, steering into an iceberg. So we just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to grow into it. It was one of those things that we started very heavy and we just said, we'll grow into this. Schwab was very good to us with the certain aspects that they gave us to our business. Again, right? Anybody that wants to go independent, I encourage them to reach out to me. I can give them our whole playbook because Schwab as a custodian was very, very good to us to help us get our business started. So Veronica just allowed Michelle and I to not have to focus and get our head in the weeds. And anybody that said they don't want a COO, we had our first SEC audit. Okay, this doesn't happen very often. As a newer firm, we got an email on a Monday that said we were being audited on a Friday and we needed to have these 13 things done.
Wow.
10 of the 13 things were already done before we even got the letter, because we also hired outside compliance. So we've got in-house compliance that we've got a full-time COO with the firm that we're working with. So they hand to hand in court in conjunction with Veronica, all that stuff was already done. So we passed our first SEC audit with flying colors, and that was a testament to her. There's no way Michelle and I could have, I mean, we could have done it, but to our own peril. So I would
No
tell
doubt. No,
anyone
that honestly, my experience too is especially for the version of independence that you embarked upon. You either need to hire a COO or you need someone really competent at running a business within your team who you can elevate to that type of role. Like to me,
correct.
it's almost non-negotiable. Like even if you don't want to pay the expense, it's that or you're not going to be doing business development anymore, and all your time's going to be spent running the business.
Correct.
So I think that's a great way to frame it. Can you talk about how does your firm grow? Are there specific channels or niches you go after, or what's part of that growth playbook?
You know, it's funny. In all of my blazers, I have inscribed "Do good, get good." It's my own little thing. It's my own little credo. It's something I live and die by. Um, Lewis, I've been in the chair for 14 years, and I have built my business solely on referrals, which is a very humbling thing to say. It's not said with any arrogance. It's said with a tremendous amount of pride in that the families that we work with and for are so happy with us that they really do refer us. And that's not a sustainable business development model. Every time I talk to, strategic business coaches, well, you can't always, what else are you doing? We get 20 to 30 referrals every year and we close 95 to 100% of them. So
Wow.
if we're bringing on 20 to 30 families a year, strictly from referrals from our clients, what else do you need to get, right? So
Yeah.
we do a lot of intimate events with our clients. Um, the business really is about the client. No, I know we all say it. It really is. It's truly about doing what they need, because if they're successful and they're happy, then we're successful and we're happy, right? Do good, get good. It's funny how the more open you are with somebody and the more you are to listening to their wants and needs and then giving it to them, the reciprocity, it's almost innate. It comes back. You don't do it for the
Yeah.
reciprocity, but it does come back. As far as niches are concerned, yeah, obviously I have an affinity for sports, so we've got a couple of athletes. Michelle works with successful women, women in entertainment specifically, and because of my past life, we have a lot of doctors, right? So a lot of doctors love the story, love the fact that the kid had the wherewithal to walk away from it and get out of the craziness that is modern medicine. So as far as the niches that we work with, I mean, everybody always asks, who's your ideal client? And for us, if you're a good person and you need help, we want to help, right? It's not about minimums. It's not about AUM. It's about, is this somebody that we can help? Is this somebody that will listen to the advice and guidance that we can give to them? And will we have a reciprocal relationship? Are we going to be able to get from them what we also give to them, right? Our relationships with our clients is not advisor client. It's really a family. And especially at my age, right? I'm about to embark on fatherhood and being a business owner now at 40
Congratulations.
years old. Thank you. I get to ask my clients, where did you go wrong so that I don't have to make that mistake? Where did you go right in your relationship so that I don't make that mistake with my wife? It's a constant evolution. My degree's in Darwinian evolution. So if you're not always evolving, you're getting left behind.
I like that. And also, it's really interesting to hear the just how the referrals happen. I mean, that's an incredible amount of referrals, and obviously the close rate. I would agree with you. Like the referrals, you can't always control, like when they come, how they come, but you can control the value you add to clients, the way you show up, et cetera. So it sounds like, hey, that I'm with you. That as long as you can keep that streak going, you got plenty of new business in front of you. You don't necessarily need to go down the expensive paths of buying leads or custodial referrals or buying businesses, et cetera?
Lewis, if you're smart about it and you're methodical about it, right? Surprise and delight is something. One of my clients, today's their wedding anniversary, so a bouquet of flowers. Before we got on the podcast, I made sure that flowers were delivered. Right, it's their 7-year wedding anniversary, so I wanted to make sure that they're gonna have flowers today. 3 years ago, one of my clients was turning 75, and they were going on a cruise, and that's one thing that we always do. I always find out where they're going on their cruises, and there's always a bottle of champagne and chocolate covered strawberries in their room that says Bon Voyage. This particular time, I was a little bit more methodical. They were going with a group of 15 people to celebrate his 75th birthday, and 70th, 75th, I think it was 75th. And I sent a cake and 2 bottles of champagne to the table. And the waitress said, this is from Alex. And everybody at the table said, who's Alex? And my client said, that's our financial advisor. He does things like this. I got 3 clients from a cake.
That's pretty cool.
Because they called me and said, we don't get these things. And again, it's not the cake that wins you the business. It's the fact that wasn't a sales tactic. I didn't do it to try to get business. It was my way of just showing them love in front of their friends. Yeah, ironically enough, it did work in my favor. It doesn't always necessarily happen that way, but for us, it's always do things for the client. How can we enhance the client experience? Michelle and I were emphatic, right? The week before we left, we took everybody to the Four Seasons, all of our staff. We went to the Four Seasons for a weekend, and we got everybody rooms and spa treatments, and it was just see this experience, because next week is really going to suck. And then the next 6 months is going to really suck after that. But we want the takeaway to really be this. The white glove service that you guys are getting for the next 48 hours, that's the service that you're going to be delivering for the next 15, 20 years. So embrace it, take notes. We're here to relax. We're here to, enjoy. But this is also a homework assignment. And that was the one that we wanted to deliver, was just a true bespoke white glove experience.
Amazing. I had a couple more quick questions for you. What's something you spent a bunch of money on, or an investment you made, or a tactic you tried that just didn't work?
Consultants, right? There were a couple of consultants that we met through, Impact or Future Proof or through our peers, where it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this person would be fantastic. And you go through and you pay them their $50,000 consulting fee for the 8-month engagement. And then it's just like, wow, man, ChatGPT really, it came out at the right time. And then you start going, well, what are we paying them for that I can't just do with an LLM at 2:00 in the morning going down the rabbit hole? Now, that's not the case for everybody, right? Some of our consultants were incredible, but when you are going to build this, be methodical with who you talk to and who you leverage to give you the support to help you lift out said business. But I will tell you, I'm going to give you kudos also, because I really do. This is something I want to commend to you guys. Last week was really, really big, right? With what you guys have done with Open Arc and what that's going to mean for our industry. That's a testament to you guys. And I would tell anybody listening to this podcast, reach out to the Diamond family, because they know everybody. And if you guys can help uplift one of the largest, most complex teams in the wealth management space, then, you guys already have the blueprint. So I'm really excited for future independence, because what you guys have done, it's incredible, right? Like, I joke when I saw the news, when I saw the headlines, and I saw that they chose Schwab, and I saw that they are working with Merrill, and I saw that they're using Black Diamond. It was like all the same people that we talk to and all the same stuff that we're using, they're doing it too. And it's just like, anybody can do this. And if you are feeling downtrodden and you're feeling like Sisyphus, I promise you, you're not institutionalized. And no matter what you think, even if you took 70% of your business, if you sat there and really did the math, if you took 70% of your business in this model, you'd probably still be net ahead, because you now are owning it on your own. So don't ever let your personal bottom line be the reason you don't make this decision. because, that was the one thing that Michelle and I always said. It's not about the money. The money will come, right? It's about the autonomy and finally being at a place. One thing I didn't speak to was, you asked, where did I feel like my values were misaligned? And Glass-Steagall is what really did it for all of us, right? Because we could talk about all the things that went wrong during the financial crisis, but if you want to be a true fiduciary, you cannot be managed by net interest income while serving the needs of your clients. It's just a fundamental conflict of interest. So if you want to sit there and say you're a true fiduciary, okay, but then you devalue what that word really means, because you're not doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. So, for us, it was just, we've got to make the decision to rip the Band-Aid off and just take the jump and see where it lies. And we all did. And flash forward, it's now been a year and a half. We had a greater than 90% pull through on all of our relationships. And while we were in the last 15 months, we've brought on 17 new families.
Amazing.
While we're transitioning, it was, hey, right, meet Alex and Michelle. And that was the other great thing, right, where I've had clients that now I have a female business partner. And it's like, again, I can be very boisterous at times. So Michelle's soft-spoken personality is a very, very nice compliment to my Ari Gold personality.
A great partnership. I said I had 3 more questions. I think you hit on the other 2 I was going to ask. So I'll just turn it back to you to wrap us up here. Any last parting thoughts or anything else you want the audience to know?
If you're really on the fence, that means you should do this. Seriously. I can't speak to it enough. Every single person, and I'm sure you've heard it too, every single person I've ever spoken to has always said, I should have done it sooner. I should have done it sooner. I should have done it sooner. You do it when you're ready. But
Agreed.
If you really are on the fence and you're jonesing and you're not happy with your new comp guide and you're not happy with this and you're not happy with that and you're not happy with the fact that you doubled your production in 4 years and still don't have your own assistant, yeah, it's time to take the bull by the horns. You were entrepreneurial enough to build what you've built with the resources that were provided to you. I promise you, your custodian, if you're going to a Schwab or a Fidelity, because that's who I can speak to, they have all of the resources and then some. And then the accessibility is something that you, again, to this day, I can email John Beatty right now, and I will get an email back from John within the next 2 hours. And it won't be from the office of John. It'll be directly from John. You do have that connection. And again, this isn't a commercial for Schwab. I'm just letting people know my experience is the entire C-suite of executives at the firm have been incredible. So if you really are on the fence, do it. Just do it.
Well said. I love it, Alex. This has been great. Honestly, your viewpoints, your candor are refreshing to hear. It's amazing what you and Michelle and Matt and the team have built in fairly short order. So many cool learnings with merging different advisors who weren't part of a team, kind of your educational journey, the way you surprise and delight clients. All of it, I think, is a great learning. So really appreciate it, and we'll have to do this again soon.
As a financial advisor, you hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and credibility. You are successful because you take your professional responsibilities seriously and are dedicated to your clients. But are you living your best business life? Are your goals aligned with your firm's, or could a better option exist? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a book written with you in mind. It's a self-guided journey that walks you through the key steps that we take with our advisor clients. This strategic thought process and roadmap to professional self-discovery is designed to help you ask the right questions and think critically and objectively, whether you're considering change or not. Learn how to get your copy at diamond-consultants.com/thebook.